3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Lightforge podcast. This is Adwicta.
This is Merps, and this week we have a very special returning guest, someone you guys should be very familiar with, multiple-time arena leaderboard player, multiple-time BG leaderboard player, the one, the only, Educated Collins. Thank you for coming back, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Nice to see you. Not my fault.
Not your fault. What do you mean? Nothing went wrong.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So for those who know, they know. For those who aren't here yet, maybe nothing went wrong.
Nothing happened.
No.
Okay. Now that we've established that nothing went wrong previously, Collins, the last time you were here, I think we were still talking about BGs, but it's been a while. Like 2020 has happened since you have come on this podcast, and it has seemed like centuries. Okay, it's been a long time.
Why has it been so long? I've been here. I've been waiting. I've been asking every week. You're always like, no, I've got 6 other people.
Well, I mean, look, Collins, just you got to wait in line. This is the premier podcast that everyone is trying to get on. Okay. And sometimes we have to throw a few bones to people like Dreads, have them get their time in the spotlight a little bit, all right, to make them feel important. But then we got the heavy hitters like you coming on. So thank you.
I'm glad to be here, glad, maybe I need to, instill some competition, something like that.
I like it. That's what we got to do. 3 men enter the podcast, only 2 leave. All right.
Oh shit! I'm leaving the podcast after this.
Yeah. Basically, you had a good run, man. You had a decent run. But we're going to be talking about BGs today. So, Adwicta, you will be contributing
questions from our loyal viewers who also do not understand Battlegrounds at the level that you guys are going to be discussing it at.
I like it. But Collins, I was hoping what we could do today in order to get right in it, we're going to set the scene up kind of like a sports talk show. We're going to play 10 questions. Actually, it might be 9 questions. It depends. I'm still debating on one question.
It depends if Merps can come up with one more question before we get to question number 10.
Well, there's 2 questions. That might be one question. We'll see. But I'm going to make a statement/question. You say agree/disagree. Okay? Nothing in between, and then we can discuss it. But you got to say agree or disagree.
I'm a very gray line.
I know you are. Collins.
So this is very weird for me to just be like, I agree with this statement, I disagree with this statement. I will pretty much on every question think I neither disagree nor agree.
But all of this is why I'm saying you have to say agree or disagree.
Can he explain himself afterwards?
Yes, he can. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. No, but you have to start off with agree or disagree.
Exactly.
Okay, got it. That's interesting.
And then, yeah, I think that's fair, right?
And also, just so people know, Merps does not run these questions by me or by Collins. So this is going to be some gotcha questions here.
Look, I could have asked a lot more provocative questions, but I think these are going to be good questions. So the first one.
Oh, we're already starting.
Okay. Yeah. Well, sorry. Did you need more time to prepare, meditate? What did you need, Collins?
I'm ready to go, actually.
Okay, you're ready to go. The first one. The Dark Moon Fair event for BGs has been fun. We're only talking about fun.
Agree.
Has been fun. Agree. Okay, you agree. Why do you agree?
Oh, it's just me? There's no...
I'll talk afterwards, but I want to give it to you first.
Okay, I thought we were all gonna, just say our points and then we go from here. I want to see if I have enemies, right? I am setting my expectations, and I don't know the reaction from the audience. Are they about to kill me because I said something that they don't agree with? There is no. I can't really judge the situation here. So
audience revolts over Collins saying that Dark Moon Fair is fun. Anything but fun.
We got the clickbait title for YouTube. It's already there. But Collins, don't worry about us, man. Okay, we are small players in this. Explain yourself.
All right, so I think it's been pretty fun in that there were a lot of changes to the Dark Moon Fair. Just the prizes allow me to think a little bit more. Right, when it first came out, there were so many novel situations that were created because of all these prizes and how they changed the leveling curve, the power level of enemies, what you could do to change situations, and all those new situations were pretty fun. Uh, Fun is kind of relative, right? So I do agree
Mhm.
with it, right? But fun can change, right? As you get used to it, as your player, the player base gets used to it, the player base improves, right? Then they get better. Then you start losing to them. Then you start realizing that the reason why you're losing is because these prizes because of the new event. Then the fun, drops down a little bit, But at the beginning, there was definitely a lot of fun situations. A lot of things are fun if I can abuse it in a way that other players cannot abuse it. And very early on, I'm very good at that. They don't know what they're doing. I don't know what I'm doing, but I know more than they are. And that's all I need to do. Right. But as people get better, right, it equalizes a little bit. And then you start realizing that you have a better chance, a better way of climbing if you just remove those events. So overall, right, it's been fun and but as time progresses, if you ask me like a month later and everything's still the same, you might get a different answer from me.
That's
Yeah,
like a great and super well thought out answer. Wow. I was expecting something very much like fun because spells, fun, more excitement. That was really in depth. I mean, I can see how that would happen as this event goes on because it's a 2 month event, right? Like they
Yeah,
announced it from the very beginning.
I don't really talk about my mindset. So, it's it makes sense that these answers are more in depth than you're expecting from me.
No,
well,
no, I just mean expecting from
here's the thing.
anyone. It was like a very like basic, kind of question, and that was a very thoughtful answer.
Here's the thing. The reason the first one is about fun is because I will ask about other
I
aspects of
know.
Darkmoon
I
Faire.
can tell.
You can tell. I know you can tell. But I'm also in agreement with you that it has been fun because if we think about what makes something fun, especially for a game like Hearthstone, it's giving people decisions, having them feel like those decisions matter, but making sure you're not overloading them with decisions, especially ones that they feel don't matter. Like it's a lot of these things put together, right? And when I think of it in that way, I initially, during the announcement of the Darkmoon Faire event, looked at it. I was like, "This is too much. Like, what are you doing? You're touching something that is fundamental with BGs. We have a great structure. Why are you doing this?" And when it came out, I really enjoyed it, and it integrated more seamlessly than I expected by far. It gave me it like let me think about it a lot more about the game more deeply than I had previously thought about it. And the RNG in it was really not as much as I thought it would be as well. A lot of people complain about. So, yeah, it's just been really fun. And I also agree with Adulta though. It's like 2 months seems a little bit long, and it's one of those things where the longer it goes on, the less I'll say it is fun. But I'm up to the point where I'm okay if we have spells permanently in BGs in some capacity. I'm not saying these exact spells. I'm not saying, like we do this exactly in this way. But before the event, I was like, whoa, whoa, like get your spells away from my game mode. And now I'm like, I can see this working permanently in some capacity, some degree. We can change it up. We can do all of this stuff, but it works. So this is one of those things where I've been pleasantly surprised at.
Yeah, I do want to add that I also thought that this would be very weird when we introduced it, but as I thought about it, it reminds me very similarly of a lot of the other auto battle genres. You would fight the players, and then you would have a moment where you'd fight some AI mobs, right? And then the mobs would give you a reward. This is basically fighting the mobs, getting the reward, and then having to discover which one of those that you want. So it actually kind of ties similarly in what the auto battlers were doing. It's just something that hasn't been added to Battleground specifically, and I like the way they implemented it.
Right, and it streamlines the process as well because look, I didn't play auto chess or TFT really, but I watched the streams and you weren't really worried most of the time about the NPC. I'll call them the NPC battles.
In TFT, a little bit,
a little bit. Yeah, TFT was the exception.
Yeah, that's true. Until you get to like the late game in like auto chess and things like that. But yeah,
right.
There's definitely been some games in TFT where I got killed by the
Well, we've also been killed by the ghost a few times. I mean, I haven't. Maybe you have, but that's
wait. You're not supposed to get killed by the ghost.
After Adulta gets 5th place, all thought goes out the window. He's like, I did it. Top 5. All right. Second question. It's still within the realm. The Darkmoon Fair event has been balanced and skill testing.
False, right?
And why?
I mean, this is kind of, it's okay. So I don't agree and disagree with the statement, but there are some prizes that are nuts. That's that's the main issue, right? So I think a lot of the prizes are pretty good, pretty balanced in how you can utilize them. But there are some prizes in each of the 4 prize brackets that are just like way better than all the other prizes. So if you get that one and you know when to use it and how to use it, right? Your advantage dwarfs a lot of the other things you did in all of the other turns because you got that one prize and you utilize it efficiently. So that's the main reason why I think it's not skill testing. The thing is, you have to identify which prizes those are, right, and when to use them and things like that, right? But that takes time, right? But we've gotten to the point. I think a lot of the players that play a lot have gotten to the point where they know which prizes those are and how to use them effectively. So it makes it feels bad in a way that you realize, oh, I didn't hit that prize. Oh, I'm probably not going to win. I'm probably going to struggle to even get top 4. Let's hope we can cheese something out, So that's my issue there.
Which are the ones that you deem to be problematic?
Yeah, see, that's the problem. Then once this comes out, everyone will be using it until it changes. So that's why I've been very vague. I don't want to just be like, this is how you beat me. I would say there's definitely some that are better than the others in every single one of the brackets. But which one
I think that's fair.
Who knows? I might be wrong myself. So
I will say I have previously shared my thoughts on this already. But let me ask you a very, very specific question, because this is one that I think the Bob's Tavern subreddit and everything. The one that I think is really controversial is Ice Block. A lot of people don't like having Ice Block available as a prize, as potentially 2 prizes for one player, because they can discover it during the tier 3
be a secret guy.
Right? Yeah, well, not just the secret guy, the tier 3 prize, and then the tier 4 prize, which lets you discover from the previous tiers as well.
I actually had a game where I had no chance of doing anything. I got the Ice Block prize. I was playing a juggler comp. Let me mind you, which in this meta isn't the best way to go.
As which hero?
A non-secret guy hero.
Okay.
Just a random hero. I think I was playing like Finley, and I got Jandis or something. It was I was playing a juggler comp of some sort. Some guy was playing a scam comp, and then some guy was playing like a big gigantic dragon comp, or some insane stat comp. I had no chance of winning either anything. I got an Ice Block. I was able to stay alive to turn 16. I got another Ice Block. Then the scam comp killed the big dragon guy comp. I refined my composition. I got like 2 golden jugglers, and I was able to scam the juggler comp after popping an Ice Block and losing a 50-50 and then fighting again and winning that one. He didn't get an Ice Block right, and I killed him. So I won the lobby. And there was no chance I was ever going to win because I got 2 Ice Blocks. It was kind of weird.
So you love the Ice Block?
No, and I do not like that I was able to like outskill him because of some RNG from a prize. Like the chance I get that isn't very high, and because of that, I get to win. It's not really balanced.
Yeah, I think the idea of prizes is good, and the idea of spells is good. But there's a huge gap in power between all of these, and I do appreciate that some of the lower power ones, on average, do have uses, right? Like there are some, for example, the top one that comes to mind is Brand's Blessing. It's not a always pick, but sometimes, depending on your warband, depending on what's in the shop, it's really good, right? And depending on your kind of tribe as well, it could be really, really good. So I think Brand's Blessing is an example of one in which you don't always pick it, but it could be good. And I think those are nice to have. But what ends up happening with prizes is there are some in which you compare one to the other and you're just like, these shouldn't be in the same tier. Like these shouldn't be presented together. So
Yeah,
that's kind of problematic.
Yeah, there's definitely some prizes I pretty much picked once and then never picked again.
How many times have you picked the banana? Like, sorry, the big banana,
The
not
big
like
banana.
yeah,
not the one where you get
the,
fun.
yeah, not handful of bananas.
I've picked big banana like twice because the other ones were even worse. I like bananas at least stats. Some do nothing. In that way.
Some do basically nothing. But with the amount that you've played, twice is astronomically small amount.
Quite low, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I think that is part of the problem with the Dark Moon Fair. People have figured it out, and I wouldn't like. I'm fine with spells continuing on. In BGs, I think it's fine. But this is something we got to work on. We can't, if it were to continue on, Blizzard has to work on kind of the balance within all of these prizes because there's too big of a gap between prizes of the same tier.
Yeah. Another thing to notice is that they haven't made any changes to any of the prizes since it's come out, right? It's been 2 months, almost 2 months. There's been absolutely no changes. They've been like, oh, this prize is too OP, we'll change it quickly. There's been none of that. It's because they know it's gonna rotate in 2 months. So they're like, let's not care about that. Let's not put resources. Let's not have someone, look at the win rates and see which ones, because they realize it's gonna disappear and they don't want to put that resources or whatever reason, right? So that's kind of weird, right? Because in a lot of like things like hero balance and things like that, right, they'll see something's OP, right, then they'll announce it and they'll change it, right? But here they have been very lax on things, even though I'm sure they can look at their stats and see, oh, this one is always changes the outcome of games, this one doesn't do anything. But what can you do?
This is true. Yeah, I think you bring up a really good point because these are offered at set intervals, right? And you can, like, this is one in which it's easier to accumulate the data and make conclusions than just kind of some of the other stuff that they might want to draw conclusions from because people have different war bands at different times, this and that. There's more variables there. And yeah, I don't fault them for not changing it, but I would obviously like them in a 2-month period to maybe at the middle, maybe switch it up a little bit, kind of add a little bit more, take some of the bad ones out or something. Even if it doesn't overall improve the experience by adding more balance, just mixing it up a little bit. That would be fun.
I think if you're going to do a 2-month event period, you should balance it in the middle. 2 months is a long time. It just and I'm not sure that they're not going to do it, right? Like, how long has this event been out for? It hasn't been out for that long. Like, when is it ending?
I actually don't know on the top.
I have no idea.
Yeah,
I have no idea.
I feel like we should know this, right? Like, when does it end? We should know this, but I don't.
Yeah. So chat's telling me it's ending in about 2 weeks.
Oh, never mind then. Then they're not updating anything. But hey, then we're back to normal in like 2 weeks. I didn't know it was ending that early.
Yeah, that's why I talked about it, that they haven't changed anything, right? Because if it was like only been a month and I was like, oh, maybe they're gonna do it this month.
But
there's
now
no way
all
anymore.
hope is gone.
Yeah. But if they did this as an experiment to grab some data, hopefully they will be able to see that it was a success, because I think overall it has been a success. And for the first time that they do something like this, pretty good. Not balanced, but for introducing something like this into a very complex game like BGs, not bad. Good job, Blizzard.
Complex, someone's laughing out there.
you mean you?
No, not me. No, it's very, very, very hard.
Right. That's not a laugh. That's a chuckle, right? It's a chuckle.
Yeah, it's different.
All right. Next statement. You might laugh at this one. The power level of the top heroes is appropriate. I try to use very particular words. Okay. All right.
The bad heroes suck. That's my point. Yes. The worst, the bad heroes are too bad. Why do I groan when I pick a bad hero? I want to enjoy picking heroes. I want to pick a hero and be like, yes, I got this hero. I don't want to be like, oh my God, these are my choices. Why is the world crumbling down on me? And that's sometimes how I feel.
You don't like picking Rat King?
No.
They buff Rat King.
You don't like pitching Patchwork, Adult's favorite hero?
They buffed him too.
Not really. I think you want the heroes to have an identity where you enjoy it and it's kind of unique and you're like, yeah, I want to play this. I want to play that hero. You see a hero, yeah, I want to play. You don't want it too weak where you're like, oh, I don't care what hero I get because it doesn't matter. It's all the same. I hyper level to 5, I get Caligos twice and I win, every single hero. You want to have some type of identity where you're like, oh, with this hero, I could do this comp. With this hero, I could do this comp. With this hero, I could do this comp. And with a lot of the stronger heroes, they have, they're strong because they can do specific comps that other heroes can't do. But the real issue is a lot of the weaker heroes, they can't do any comps. they just try to fight it out, and they lose access to like 10 extra gold that some of the other heroes can do, or they lose access to 30-30 in stats essentially over the course of the game, and they just fall flat on their faces. And there's no turns they spike. There's no reason to really pick some of these other weaker heroes. So I do think that the stronger heroes are appropriate in what they do. The real crime is that the weak heroes make you suffer. They just don't feel rewarding at all.
Yeah, and I wanted to bring this up because it's an interesting discussion. It brings up quite a few topics. I think some people within the community are angry at the power level of the top heroes right now, and they yearn for the good old days when Edwin Van Cleef and his 1 mana +3/+3, sometimes +4/+4 was king, right? When you got Edwin and you were just like, oh, great, I got one of the top heroes in the game, things look good. I got Yogg, oh man, look at that tempo, so good. They yearn for those days, and I think the game has gotten to a point where I agree with you. I don't think we should be complaining so much about the current power level, because the game is more complex and more fun when there is kind of this, this dynamic, right? Econ heroes are fun. What happens in the meta as a result of it is not necessarily fun, and we can fix all of that. But I'm curious what your thoughts are on how to fix the bad heroes, because if we look generally, the good heroes tend to be the econ heroes. The bad heroes tend to be the quote tempo heroes, right? Let
me just say there's no tie here that's necessary from a first principles or a game design perspective where your best heroes have to be econ heroes. That's just how Blizzard happens to do it. I think what Collins is saying, that the top level overall in terms of power level is good and we should bring other stuff up there.
Yeah.
I don't think the tempo is necessarily toxic to bring up to the level of the top heroes right now that are just econ.
Yeah.
Oh, go on.
I don't necessarily think that you need econ heroes. Econ just happens to be really strong right now. It's not even due to the meta. It's due to the minions in the meta and how all of the best minions are this particular tier. And if you get to this particular tier early, then you blow out whatever other composition you could possibly make because you can't deal with how strong these tier minions can be, but that doesn't really have anything to do with the heroes. That's more of the minions and how balanced each of the tavern tiers are. You'd have to restructure the taverns and give compositions that can be created in the lower tavern tier so that the game plans other than being at the highest tavern tier can work. So that really is a separate issue than the heroes, because if you change what are in the tavern tiers, you'd change what the playstyle will be. I just think that the heroes itself and how strong they can be is okay. Like they can be uniquely strong, but the issue is that some of the weaker heroes are uniquely weak. They don't have any advantages to identify.
I'll go one further on the meta being driven by what's in each tavern tier. I did some math and simple modeling on this in the earlier days of Battlegrounds, and one of the things that I found, and it kind of amazed me that it just kind of went with this direction and they haven't reverted it, is you guys remember like earlier on in Battlegrounds, tier 6 used to cost a bit more, and then they lowered it. So there was a reason tier 6 costed that much. It's because that was the right mathematical result. So they lowered it because no one was going to 6 because it was pointless to go to 6 because their tier 6 minions sucked. Now that they fixed the tier 6 minions, and the tier 5 minions for that matter are even... well, we could talk about tier 5 differently, but basically tier 5 and tier 6 both cost too little, but especially tier 6. From what I think was their original mathematical model that actually followed like a pretty elegant formula. There's also, and they don't do this very consistently, but they also like the number of options available in each tier. One, it's not consistent from meta to meta. Right. Which is always weird to me that they don't just find ways to fill it. But it's also there's quite a significant dip in certain ones. I don't remember what it was back then, and certainly wouldn't necessarily be the case now because it changed many times since I did an analysis. But all of this stuff like drives what works in the meta, right? If you just extend tier 5 and tier 6 a little bit, all of a sudden aggro has a space. Right? Even if you don't change like your tempo heroes by too much, you don't have to like make Ya give like +4/+4 or anything like that. It's stuff that they can play with, and I think they're going to do it. I don't think Blizzard's going to all of a sudden nerf their 6 best heroes, right? Like that's not going to happen. So instead, while bringing other stuff up, they're going to look into diversifying their things that are actually their minions and their tier leveling things. So I'm hoping that they do something structural, because that's really their elegant solution to the problem. And at least someone in Blizzard knows it, because that was their original model, and they did not make a math mistake as far as I could tell.
That's a really interesting point that I haven't really like thought about in a critical way, mostly because I mean, what's the point? but that is a good point, that there are other factors at play that they can tweak to resolve some of the meta issues, that instead of just like the only wheel or knob they can turn is heroes and power levels and minions and power levels, right? There's costs of things, tavern level things and other solutions that they could implement besides just the ones they've been doing so far.
Yeah. And that makes a lot of sense as well, because you think what would be the implications or ramifications of them, let's say, increasing the cost to tier up to 5 and 6 by 1 gold each. First of all, it busts the Elise curve, right? It completely busts the Elise curve, which, let's face it, the Elise curve is the most consistent, broken thing in the game right now.
Yeah, due to prizes.
Yeah, due to prizes. It's so stupid. Like, how many times are you, as Elise, the first on tier 6, and on that turn, you literally get 3 tier 6 units? You've done it before. I've done it before. Yeah, you get 3 tier 6 units on that one turn, and you're the first person on tier 6. It's so stupid. And then the next guy you face sees your like... double
Caligos Nadine.
Yeah, double Caligos Nadine, double Caligos and Malgadon, and they're just like, all right, like table flip time. So it busts that, first of all, which is the meta, right? Elise is the meta. She is the meta leader. And this is one of those examples where sometimes the meta leader in one MMR bracket is not the meta leader in the other, but Elise is just dominant wherever. It's like Jandice does really, really well at the highest levels, right? And if you just look at HS replay stats for Jandice, for everyone, she is below Edwin, which kind of makes sense because you need to plan a lot and you need to do a lot with Jandice. So this sort of effect busts the Elise curve, number one. What it also does is it forces people, even if you want to be greedy, they have to stay down a little bit and they get beaten up a lot more, right? It's like the game right now is already sometimes played on a razor's edge where this one guy, it's like because he was left at 5 health, because he got to face a ghost on one turn, because of all of this stuff, he got the double count ghost and he won at the end. So because we're playing at a razor's edge right now, you do this, you push people down a little bit and it could have just a huge tsunami-like effect. So I like it. I hope they experiment with that a little bit and maybe keep the heroes the same because heroes are fun, right? Good hero powers are fun, but everyone going to 6 and then people killing you with boats and everything is not exactly fun. Sometimes. Okay. Next statement. Alistra is fine now after the nerf.
You know, you would think I thought about this before and I could give you like a easy answer, huh? I don't know. I would agree because I haven't been like complaining about it in my mind, at least. And that like I haven't thought like, oh my god, I can't believe this with Elystra recently.
Recently.
So I would say,
or are you just numb to it?
I'm not. I think the card is interesting in a way that you have to change some game plans because of it, and it adds some mind games in that you can position in a way that if they have Elystra, they get destroyed, but then you can also position in a way if they had Elystra and then you sold if they sold it, you get destroyed because oh look, all your poisons are going into the Divine Shield units now, and you have nothing left. So it's a unique card that when first came out, the stat line was too strong, but now the stat line isn't as overpowering, and when people get it from Sneeds, it's still stupid actually. So there are still issues with it, but it hasn't been a constant wow, I can't believe this card that I still sometimes get with other situations and other cards. So I think it's in a better spot.
I think it is in a slightly better spot. I am on the fence of whether or not I want it long term, although I lean towards no. I don't like the effect it has on the end game. What I like about it, all right, I like any card that has a mind game potential, that has kind of this end game chess match / counter ability. I just think Elistra does too much for one card. And the ramifications of you having it or not having it in the end game, like the end game, right, because it is a Divine Shield poison meta, is too high. I'm okay with it. I don't think it's like, like get rid of it now or I won't play kind of thing, but I don't want it around long term.
Yeah, there's definitely some situations that Elystra can allow you to win that there's not really any other card that can allow you to win in such a consistent manner. So it against some comps, it's almost their direct counter in such a way where, oh, if I position here, Elystra will counter me, but if I position regularly, then my board will just be useless in that it doesn't function the way that it wants to, as the death rattles won't trigger, my minions will go into the wrong minions, things like that. So I do think it opens up a certain question of like, is this okay that you can counter this in you can counter some common strategies in such a easy way and consistent way. I actually think it's okay because it reminds me of the ghoul counter. If you're fighting, a lot of mechs, a lot of George particularly, right? You play this ghoul, and it basically like an Elystra for George players, mech players, where you remove all the divine shields for one card, and you counter almost a lot of how their composition wants to play. So um there are what I think it makes it okay in my head is that there are it doesn't counter every comp. There are some comps that Elystra does horrible. Like there are some comps you can play where you drop an Elystra and your comp becomes significantly worse because your opponent um doesn't trade into your poisons or your divine shield huge minions, right? They go into a 4 attack nothing, right? And it allows them to scale, right? Beast is the one I'm thinking of in my head right now, where if you have a macaw, right, it's so nice for you because all your macaws get to live. Your cleave gets to cleave for free because you're not going to die to an Elystra. And you just have an extremely strong beast board that can buff again because you played that card. If you didn't play the Elystra, you'd probably be in a better position. So there are other comps that don't care about Leicester can deal with it. So it's not a card that counters every single composition. It's a card that counters the nutso. I have 2 Divine Shield Amalgadons going first, kind of comps. But there are other comps that you can play that don't care about it.
I like that response. I'm going to jump immediately into the next question because you just you just brought it up. Amalgadon should be removed from Battlegrounds. Agree or disagree? This is one that doesn't get as much attention. But all right, you know what? For this one, I'll throw you a bone. I will respond to this one first.
Oh, thank you.
There you go.
I have to do all of the work at the beginning. Like what? I need a break. I need to think about this.
Okay, I'm going to say this. For me, it is an agree. And what I mean is we can eventually perhaps bring back Amalgadon for a different meta or something. What I don't like about the current meta, and I wanted to ask this right after Elistra, because like I said, the reason Elistra is kind of, quote, problematic for me is because the end game, as you know, is pretty homogenous. I'm not saying in 100% of the games, but the end of the game, it's poison, divine shield. And what does that mean? It's just Amalgadons, right? Like basically every single comp almost is reaching for Amalgadons at the end in order to get that divine shield poison, sometimes taunt as well, and then it just becomes this sort of like divine shield poison wars and everything. I would like for that to change because I think that it has too high of an impact on the end game right now, and it restricts the end game creativity in some ways. I would want them to replace it with something else because I like what Amalgadon does in that if you're a little bit behind, it can save you. It has a somewhat of an RNG aspect to it, which I do like. Like sometimes you hit, sometimes you don't hit, and it can save you from bad situations. It can solidify, really win you the game. I think it has just too high of an impact right now, and it's a little bit too good. And I don't want it to just be in the game forever. So I would like Blizzard to at least remove it for a while and then perhaps bring it back, and maybe the game is different and such, so on and so forth. But I think that we've seen what it's done for the meta. I'm not saying it's super problematic. I'm having fun with the meta, but I think they should remove it for at least a period of time.
What was the question again, like in its entirety?
It was just like a statement. Amalgadon should be removed from Battlegrounds.
Agree or disagree? So for me, because Divine Shield and Poison are always going to be so dominant in the meta, and I guess Reborn, if that's a thing, but that's not a thing for Amalgadon. It's always going to dominate the meta. I don't think there's anything they can do to change that without adding other mechanics into it. And that should make it off limits to the general pool. Like, if you're going to make, I don't know, like pirates a thing, you can't have an amalgam in the end that can get Divine Shield and Poisonous, and your pirates can't. Like, it force like you can't create the meta that I think Merps wants without like while having Divine Shield or Poison, even if they're not available on the initial battle cry, and you just have to like add them in. It would still like warp many tribes because those tribes just don't have access to these things, and these tools are like just so powerful.
Right.
They're powerful, but warping though, like how you would get them as well, because everyone's reaching for them. So what you're saying is some tribes have access to it, others don't. They're all reaching for Amalgadons anyway. So
yeah,
like
but that's what I mean. Like, but they're only reaching for Amalgadons because Amalgadons can get Divine Shield and Poisonous.
Right.
Right. Okay. It's because they can get all of that.
Yeah, so that's exactly why it's warping the meta. Because if you don't have Divine Shield or Poisonous, then not all the tribes will be going for Amalgadons. You'll only be going for it when it's fitting, and then you don't warp the meta.
Right. Okay. I think I have an answer for the question. And my answer is like neither of them.
But no, Collins, remember the rule.
I would say false. Or I don't
disagree?
Yeah, I disagree. I don't want it to be removed, but I do want it to be adjusted. In that it's not okay in its current state, even though the nerf I think helped a lot. But it was way busted before.
Yes.
But the nerf did help a lot. But I do think like the issue is how easily accessible it is. Even though it's a 6 drop, right? It's supposed to be hard. The meta is kind of high rolly, so all the 6 drops are accessible because you go to 6 often in a lot of your games. So if there was a way to kind of reduce this accessibility, it maybe make it a 7 drop, add that new mechanic or something. Another thing I would love is if you could limit the amount of Amalgadons you could ever get to like 1, right? So let's say you make it a 7 drop, and 7 drops you can only get 1 ever on your board. Thing like that. The issue a lot of the times is like you're fighting like 2 or 3 Amalgadons. They all have Divine Shield Poison, and you're just like, yeah, this beats like all of my cards. There's nothing I can do. One is a 6/6 Divine Shield Poison, and it killed my 100/100. Like, what am I even supposed to do here? Like, it's too powerful, and you can fill your board with it, right? If you could limit the number of Amalgadons you can only have 1 Amalgadon on your board. That's the only thing you could have. It's not as big of a deal because this guy got lucky. He has 1 Divine Shield Poison. That's the only thing I have to deal with, right? It's not like, okay, so my minion attacks, okay, it hit his like 50/50 taunt. Okay, it hit his Divine Shield Poison. There goes my minion. Okay, it hit his other Divine Shield Poison. There goes my other minion. Okay, now it hit the regular poison. Okay, and my minion is dead. Okay, now it hit the third Amalgam Divine Shield Poison. Like half my board. I have 2 minions left already. Like, and he still has like 200 Amalgadons. Like, what am I doing, right? But if there was only like 1 issue, right, then you could like add the poison, the 1/1 poison, right, and try to manipulate your board where that goes into that Divine Shield Poison every time, right? Because there's only 1, right? So there's less RNG in that, and you could find a way to counterplay it, right? So I think there are some tools they can do. That the suggestion I suggest is a whole new mechanic. So that's something else. But
I like it.
It's not the only answer isn't okay. It doesn't work in its current form. We don't know how to change the battle cry to make it work. Let's remove it, right? There are things you can do to make it work, right? I think they've been fairly safe with a lot of the changes they've done in Battleground since its inception. That's why I like the Darkwind prizes, in that they're trying something completely different and seeing how it works, right? 2 months is a number of time they would choose because you can get good data from it, right? So they're considering that type of structure or event, right? So they want to make the game more fun. They want to make the game better, right? So I'm hoping that they see the results from this event, not be discouraged, and be okay with making, sweeping changes or new mechanics that could make the game more balanced and more skill testing and fun for everyone. So
I like it. Okay. The third question
We're
of
only on
this
question
trio.
3?
No. The third question of this trio. Like these 3 questions are part of like a group.
Right.
You're gonna be here
Should,
all night, Collins.
Khadgar should be removed from the game. Agree or disagree?
Okay, so I know what everyone else has been telling me. But I haven't really cared too much. I do think that
Wait, agree or disagree?
I would say I disagree. But there maybe should be like a limit to the number of triples you can make in a turn or something like that, right? Like,
oh, okay, that's interesting.
Because the issue is like you go Khadgar, you go tokens, right? Then you make a ton of triples. You don't have enough time, so you have to reset the game, right? So you have extra time, and then you make a ton of triples, and then you have like 6 drops. That's your whole comp. It's like double Caligos Nadina, 2 Amalgadons, and then like a filler spot, right? And then you just win from there, right? Like, it's interesting, but that's not the only thing Khadgar does, right? It allows you to bank gold. It allows you to power level and get a like an early 5 or early 6, right? If you get 2 tokens, right, you can just buy them and then go like a unit down, but get a 5 drop and use that to scale and win the game, right? It's the issue is that at the very high levels, people just abuse it to its utmost potential and just end up, you see the people with like 18 triples, right? And you know what happened. Ha ha ha. Yes, they spent the last 2 turns fighting a dead guy so that they had 2 turns to transition into a nutso comp that you can't deal with, right? So I think the card itself has a cool mechanic where you can abuse reborn things, you can abuse like death rattle things, and you can get a lot of advantages. It's kind of like a mini Baron in a way where some things Baron can do, Khadgar can do, sometimes even better. So it's a cool unit. It's just like the one current like breaking point of people abusing it to get a ton of triples, and only some heroes can really do it well. Is Janus being one of them is where I see a lot of people always tell me, "Oh, this is a problem." But I don't necessarily care because there's a lot of skill expression in that, right? You ever like, if you ever see someone do it, you ever watch someone play Khadgar, you can see that they know what they're like. They know what they're doing and they know when to do it, right? Like, because it's very easy to mess this up, right? It takes a lot of practice, it takes a lot of dedication, and then you can see the fruits of it, right? So I like that. I like seeing that. It's interesting gameplay. It's just that if that is the only way to win the games, or that's where it becomes a problem, right? Where there's not much else to do if you really want to win, right? In a high roll meta such as this one, Khadgar gives you a better chance than playing normally. So it's very common.
EduCs, I know you have thoughts on this.
I mean, I have thoughts on the spell system. Back in the first question, like, are spells fun? I'm like, I don't think they're fun because I used to be able to play Battlegrounds and now I can't. So my fun dropped 100% for whatever it was. But I feel like I'm a special case. I feel like I'm the people that the designers have to think about to some degree because, a lot of the more casual players probably feel the way I do in this aspect. It's like anything that's too complicated is not good because there's a timer, and the timer, they're not giving you more time to do stuff. And Khadgar has always pushed it to the absolute extreme so that it's even breaking the system within itself, right? Like, there are ways to fix it so that it doesn't break the system within itself and you don't have to like exit the game and then rejoin and do weird stuff to take advantage of it, but it's still just too complicated. Like, I don't know. I feel like the whole entire the joy of Hearthstone in general and of card games is to take relatively simple interactions and relatively simple mechanics, especially in limited format, and then make them stack on top of each other in order to either create synergies or eke out advantages. And Khadgar is one of those things that kind of blows it all out of the water, at least for like the player playing Khadgar. Like, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world, but that's my whole thing with Khadgar.
Yeah, so you've expressed this before, and I tend to agree. Khadgar, does it take skill? Yes, but I do agree it's just jarring how different that skill is. It's like if we were still playing Arena, and then in order for you to consistently get 12, okay, see, you're laughing already at that. If we're playing Arena, and then
Collins is like playing Arena,
right? Check W. But it's like if we were playing Arena, and if the game was even, and suddenly you could get the win by playing expert mode DDR. That's exactly how it is. You could, like, you're tied in a close game, right? You could lose, and suddenly a prompt pops up, and it's like expert DDR time, Darude Sandstorm, and you're like, oh shit. Okay, let's go. Does it take skill? Obviously it does. Can you practice a skill? Yes. Is it part of the game? Obviously it is. Just like Arena/DDR could be a game mode. Is it weird? Yeah, it also
like that's the game design part, right? Like as a game designer, right, you would never do that because it's kind of ridiculous to do, but unintentionally, I think they kind of made that happen with Khadgar. It just got like too extreme in terms of what you could do with it.
Right. And sorry, go on.
I've never thought about it like that.
It's true though. That's not a bad analogy, right?
Yeah, that's why it's so funny. It's actually accurate in that the skill set and the mechanics to play Khadgar well and to play Battlegrounds normally in every other case is completely different, and you need a whole different set of skills to do this efficiently and to play the rest of Battlegrounds. So having a prompt like, oh yes, let's play some DDR here. And it's a good analogy.
Right. And here's the thing. It's just like in Arena, like Arena/DDR, when the prompt comes up, you can also click no. But you got to realize when you click no, you are lowering your chance to win. Because, like on average, right? It's like Dog is number one in NA. Is it a coincidence that he is one of the best Khadgar brand kind of transition players? We've all seen, he's obviously really good at it. And has that helped him get to number one? No doubt, right? Do you need it to be very good at the game? No, you don't need it to be good, but it is the skill that you kind of have to have. I do think it's interesting though that, for example, Dog and Victor have both stated, I don't want to put words in their mouth, Victor has actually wanted Khadgar out of the game. I believe Dog has said he doesn't mind if it is taken out, and he's just been like, I think taking it out is correct. The problem with Khadgar is not so much exactly with Khadgar the card. It's more so to do with the current time system and the time advantage you get from disconnecting. And removing Khadgar is kind of just the easiest way to solve this issue right now, where if you want to play Khadgar effectively and you want to have a lot more extra time that is needed for these transitions, you gotta do some weird, funky stuff with the client. And that sucks. I don't like doing it. And I will say, especially when I'm streaming or if I just want to have fun, it's like, that meme where someone is slouched and then once they get Khadgar, it's like they gotta sit up.
That's true.
Yeah. That's really the problem. I think Khadgar, if given equal opportunities or chances or / time, it's really time for everyone without not exploits, but like without disconnecting, without using firewall kind of settings,
right,
would be better. And I would accept that. Other people might not accept that still, but I think removing Khadgar is the easiest solution, so I would be for that right now. Okay, so Next.
What question are we on?
We are on 6, and there's only 9.
Okay.
I combined. Don't worry about it. Colin, you okay, man? You okay? You gonna make it through?
Yeah. We're great. I mean,
we're great. Exactly. See? Yeah, Adult's the one trying to bring us down.
No,
All right.
no. I was just curious. I like to have a plan, a time.
Oh, you're just bracing yourself. I understand. Yeah. Next statement / question / whatever. Token damage should be changed to 1 damage regardless of what pops out.
Yes, dude, I've been talking about this all day. You're baiting me.
I am baiting you.
I have been suggesting this since like the beginning of Battlegrounds. Essentially, it always felt so weird where I'm just like, okay, so Gascore is in. All right, so Gascore came out. Oh look, my minions did a good job. They fought the minion, they beat it up. Now I'm taking 3 times the damage. Oh, why did you attack that minion? You have one job: avoid the minion on the enemy's board that creates more. Like, what? That doesn't make sense, right? Why are we getting punished for doing a good job and defeating more minions than you need to? It just like it, and also you take too much damage, right? I remember earlier in the game, when AFK used to give a 4 and a 3, right? You could start with Shredder or Pilot Shredder and then a Khadgar. Yeah, Sky Golem. Yeah. Sky Golem and a Khadgar. I had a situation where the AFK had Pilot Sky Golem, Khadgar, right? The Sky Golem goes in, right? Pulls out like two Megasaurs. And I took, how much damage? I took a 12, 15,
40.
Right? 17 damage.
Oh yeah, 17.
On turn 3. I was like, I was fuming, It didn't make sense to me. I was like, why is this part of the game? Why am I taking 17 damage from a very normal situation, right? The AFK always gets a 4, always gets a 3, and just high rolls the Megasaur. Why am I taking 17? It freaked me out, and I was like, something should change. Let's make it 1 damage, instead of 12, So I definitely agree. The token should be 1. It should have been 1 a long time ago, in my opinion. And I've asked them before, and they said they didn't want to do it. So
it's really been like this for over a year, and they're not doing it because I think they fundamentally misunderstand part of what makes aggro or like what makes tempo work. Is that one of the things they're doing is holding tempo back because tempo is not fun when they push it forward. But a lot of this has to do with how they're calculating the damage overall, not necessarily just a token issue, but just how they're calculating damage overall that you're dealing to your opponent, and the relationship between, like, we'll call it aggro, where you're actually trying to deal damage to your opponents, and just tempo, where you're trying to not take damage yourself. And there's not a big distinction in there unless you're certain heroes, and they could really expand that world to be a lot more of a strategic gameplay decision and to really expand the diversity of what they can do with this game if they just played with that concept more. And again, not just the token thing, but the token thing I think is a pretty obvious example, is one of the areas where they're failing at that, where yes, the token damage probably, outside of very few very unlucky cases when you're Collins, you take 17 damage on turn 3, and the designers are like, oh, that must feel bad. But hey, it only happens once every like 100,000 games you play, so you're fine. As long as you don't quit after that one game, you'll be fine. To the idea that, well, if we just didn't make these things deal so much damage, we can make a better, more enjoyable, more strategic, more fun game around that by upping tempo in other ways without having it get out of control. Like, we give ourselves as game designers more space to do more creative and interesting things.
Yes. I also want to interject that is not the only situation where you can get screwed by the RNG of the death battles. Also, have you ever been in a situation where you have a gas curler, and a Baron, and those are the only 2 minions on your enemy's board, and you're just thinking, all right, all I need to do is hit the Baron. And you know what your minions do? They're like, you know what, Commander? I like the gas curler. And you know what happens? They go into it, they die, They're screaming hallelujah, but you're screaming why me? Because oh look, now they have created a gigantic board of tier 5 and tier 6 minions, and now you just took 39 damage when you had 38 HP, and now you're dead. Even though you've been winning every single battle from this point on, you only took 1 damage because you played a Ratweaver and realized that that composition would never work, but you found a way to make it work. But essentially at the very end of turn 6, turn 8, whenever they have a gas core and a Baron on the board, you take 39 and die. That's happened to me quite a bit of times as well. It's not the only situation where, you know, damage is not reasonable, in my opinion. So yes, I would say that it's not 1 out of 10,000 or whatever you said. It's almost every game to me.
Collins, I would like a little bit more passion from your answers. You seem to be a little bit low energy right now.
Right, I'll work on that. You know, just give me questions, right? Give me questions that aren't obvious, right? That the answers are right there on the table, staring at people's face. Give me a thought-provoking one. You know.
I had an example recently that obviously ticked me off. It was Sneeds with Khadgar into Elistra, into the Elistra, and you know what happens, right? The Elistra is basically just propagate, and I'm just like, wait, what? Like, even if I had just taken this, like the Sneeze damage was obviously fine. Sneeds into double Elistra was fine, but Khadgar Sneed into Elistra, into that Elistra further propagate, I'm like, that is not fine. Let me wait. So let me play devil's advocate for a second, and let me give you an argument that I've sometimes heard. I want to hear your response to this.
Fine.
The damage that comes from the death rattles / Khadgar, you know, spawning or whatever these things, it acts as a disciplining measure and actually helps shape or smooth out the meta. Because if we were to change the damage to just 1 damage, then it can encourage people to further level up, and it just creates this sort of like this bubble, this ticking time bomb. And then because people take significantly less damage, and then suddenly everyone's just going to be hitting like a truck due to their
short-sighted. Short-sighted.
Because right now the meta is not leveling up, right? People are taking a lot of damage, and they're like, you know what? Due to death rattles, I won't level up. I'll play for the board. That is exactly what's going on. Wow, they've done a fantastic job. That would be my answer. No, that's not what's happening, right? The meta is so high rolled that you get punished because of death rattles, right? Because you can take 30, you have to create the strongest possible board. So because you're taking so much damage, there's no way to balance. Okay, I'm going to scale up and grow from a board so that even if I take a little bit damage from the death rattles, my scaling strategy will be able to overpower them at the end. No, you take 30 damage from the death rattles and you're never able to scale. You can't go for that composition because you know if you get unlucky once, all your health is gone. You have no chance to scale. It's creating the opposite effect from what you're suggesting, what you want.
I'm just playing devil's advocate here.
I know. I'm just giving you an answer.
And I like it. All right. Adok, do you have some thoughts too?
Not just like if your whole objection to an argument is in the exact current environment, this will be a bad idea. Well, change the current environment. Like, is this game going to just stay static and you can't make any more changes? The point is to keep improving the game. And if this is holding back from ultimate improvement of the game, to say that, well, it's going to make it a little worse if we don't or even a lot worse if we don't touch anything else. The answer is not, well, then we can't do it. The answer is, well, then we have to touch other things. Like, it's not like they're not touching other things, right? We're not even doing anything crazy here. Just like keep touching the things you're touching and keep this in mind. Like I said, once you do this change and then you up the actual ability of tempo to compete, you create a more diverse, more skill testing, more, I think interesting meta in the early and mid game. I absolutely believe that. And I think this one thing is holding it back because it's so feel bad that if you up tempo with this around and death rattle continues to be some kind of like element, like any kind of significant element in the damage dealing equation. And this is not the only problem with the damage dealing equation. There's other problems with damage dealing mechanic, and I don't want to go all the way into it, but until you fix the mechanic of how damage is dealt in this game, you're always going to have the problems that they have. So I think it's incredibly short-sighted to say, like, in these exact scenario, I would rather have this bad mechanic in than this bad mechanic out. Like, fine, but this isn't the end game. Like, this isn't, we're not like putting the period on Battlegrounds here.
Yeah.
Okay. See, Collins, I strategically placed that question like near the middle end, so we got you. We
lull you to rest with these like obvious ones like Illustra, Amalgadon, Khadgar.
All right. Next question. The current MMR system needs to be changed. I'm not telling you how. I'm just saying.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Okay. All right. Now, explain what you think the issues are and how you would change them.
Well, in this current, I feel like there's more to talk about than what I'm going to talk about. But in this current format, the internal MMR doesn't do anything. It doesn't do the job it's supposed to, right? The internal MMR doesn't really change from reset to reset, and it just takes a day or 2 days to go back into the regular MMR. So you're not actually solving a problem, right? You reset the MMR to give other players a chance to compete with everyone, right? But the way the MMR is set up, people at 12K, for example, right? It'll take them, let's give them a week. It'll take them a week to go back to 12K, right? But people who were reset at 8K, it'll take them a week to go to 8K, and then they have to spend the next 2 months trying to climb back to climb to 12K. So is it really a reset? No. It's just like a curtain over the actual system, which is not being reset at all. So you're not solving a problem. You're not giving people a reason to try again, to climb again, because people start with different advantages. Someone's being born rich with 15K MMR, and the other guy is a new account with 4K MMR. That dude's never gonna reach there, in a reasonable amount of time, right? He's like, he's gonna think, how the hell did he get to 15K? We've been playing the same amount of hours, and he's getting three like 5 times my MMR gain per game. Like, how? And when he loses nothing. And when I lose like more than winning. How is this fair, right? It's the system right now it's not rewarding people that want to compete with everyone else, right? It rewards people that have been playing for a long time and will continue playing for a long time. So it's not an MMR reset, and I think that's unfair to call it that, and unfair for the people that want to compete with everyone on an even playing field.
I 100% agree. This is one of the, just like how last question was one of your talking points consistently, changing the MMR system has been, for me, one of the things I keep talking about. It's just an inelegant system. You're absolutely correct. It doesn't do what I think it's supposed to do / what Blizzard wants it to do. And there are many problems with that. Number one, you touch upon the reset, and I agree. The reset, all it is an annoying speed bump, right? Because it doesn't change anything. It just slows you down. And for whether it's 2 days for streamers such as yourself who play a lot, or 2 weeks for more casual players, it's just saying, hey, we're just going to stop your progress for a while, right? Like we're just going to kind of make you get back to where you're supposed to be. And I understand internal MMR changes, but like, the number that you see, like we're just gonna basically bring you back a few steps so you can get back to exactly where you were, and then you can keep going. So yeah, it doesn't do much there. Number two, what I don't like about it is how much time it is necessary to get to your quote true MMR for the system to recognize that. Like, Collins, if you were to create a brand new account, how long do you think it would take you to get back to 13, 14K? Brand new account.
2 to 3 weeks, I guess.
Yeah. And that's with the amount that you play, right?
Yeah, that's a lot. Like,
that's a lot.
If you think, oh, that's not a lot, like
this is how much
that's quite a bit.
Yeah.
So like, how many games would that be? That might be like if I were to put it in game terms. Maybe like 150 to 200 games or something like that.
Something, like
yeah.
I think
And
That sounds
games are
about
like
right.
20 to 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
because no, I think even more games than that. Because at a certain point, so first of all, you can the game, from my understanding of the MMR system, you won't go at the astronomical speeds that like resets have, right? Where you are getting like 300, 300, 300, 300, so and so.
No, it
But
would be more games. Yeah, you're right.
yeah, it would be much,
'Cause
much more games.
yeah, because it would slow down. Like to get to like 10K, I would say would maybe like 2 weeks, right? But then like once you get up there, you start getting really punished for doing poorly. So that climb from like 10K to 11K might take a week in itself, and that climb from 11
Yeah,
to 12 might take like a week, 2 weeks, and that climb
yeah.
from 12 to 13 could even take like a month. So I I'm being generous when I
Yeah.
yeah. So it might take like a month and a half actually.
Thank
So
you. So this is, first of all, I'm glad that you laid this out because you've played a lot. You've played a lot more than me, but I also like I play a lot. I've thought about this. I've understood this process. I've said this before to other people. I'm like, wait, like how long do you think it would take for someone like Collins or Victor or Dog to get back to where they quote should be? And some people are just like, oh, maybe a week. I'm like, no. I'm like, no. First of all, a week, I already think of them playing as much as they do is borderline acceptable already for an MMR system. But the true time necessary, because you're right, you guys, no matter what, on a new account, you will get bogged down at 11K, at 12K, at 13, beginning of 13K. Not because of lack of skill, but because they want you to really prove it.
I do want to mention that I have like multiple accounts.
I know
And
you do.
no. And a lot of them are like stuck at like 11K because I just don't want to like bother climbing past it. So
It's hard.
there's a good point. Like it just the climb to that extra like last 10K is actually annoyingly tough. Just because you can play like 3-4 games and you're getting like in a lot of games I'll get like no points for like third or I'll lose points for fourth even and that means I consistently have to be first or second to climb and especially when the meta changes, right? That consistently goes out the window. You have to readjust and refigure it out. And also when people get better, right, you start losing in weird ways, and there's RNG and death rattle can kill you out of nowhere. I'm gonna bring that back in. So those reasons, right? You can spend half a day trying to climb and then have like 2 bad games and you're behind when you started the day, so it's really bad sometimes when you want to climb.
I think that's problematic for any MMR system where it takes you that long to get to your true MMR. We have a lot of games that Blizzard has a lot of games that use MMR systems, StarCraft, Overwatch, et cetera, et cetera. It takes those games significantly shorter amount of time. And it's part of the reason is like, well, right now, the MMR system in Hearthstone, yes, it tracks your skill, but too big of a percent of the pie chart is how much time you've spent in there as well, right? And if you create a new account, like I was telling someone, and then we were having kind of a disagreement on how long it would take Victor, because we all know how much Victor plays. He's inhuman, right? How long it would take Victor on a new account to get to 15K. I was like, it's going to take him like 2 months, even with how much Victor plays, just because
it take longer.
Yeah, 15K. Like this is the amount of effort it takes someone to go from 13 to 14K is astronomical. 14 to 15 is like,
that's the annoying thing. When sometimes when you're talking to chat, they're like, "Oh, you're only 15K, blah blah blah," right? They're like, "Oh, I'm 10K, I'm 11K." They don't know they're at the starting line. It's like, what are you doing?
The difference between someone at 11 versus 12, it's so huge. 12 versus 13, huge. Like, so right now I'm at like 13.4 and I'm looking at, and part of the reason I stopped playing my NA account and I'm just sticking around EU, is because I know I will literally never catch Dog and Victor. Even so, I am nowhere near as good as they are. But even if I were, I can't play that much. I just can't. Period. So it's like, no. I first of all, I'm definitely not skilled enough to be number 1 or number 2. But I don't have the time.
I think you are. Don't sell yourself short. You know?
Okay, well, you can't change the time aspect though.
Fine.
Just quit your job. Come on.
But I think that is also problematic with the MMR system there. Adokta, you've been quiet. I don't know if you have thoughts on this.
I don't have thoughts. I've been out of the MMR system since I was a top 200 player, and then they did a reset, and I was like, I'm not climbing back up. It was really hard for me to climb to 1,000. So it was very discouraging.
What, 10,000?
No, 1,000. Sorry. No, I think I might have gotten to 1,000. I definitely didn't get to 3,000.
I got you above 1,000.
Okay, so 3,000. It was a hard climb, right? Like you guys are talking about like Collins gets discouraged in a new account after getting to 10K or 11K or whatever.
Don't you remember me walking you through WAG toggle?
Yeah. I didn't know how much I got, but that makes sense. I got discouraged trying to get above 3K. Not that I can't get above 3K. I think I can. Especially because my MMR is probably still like at 12K or wherever I was back in the day 6 months ago when I left it. But it was just it stopped feeling rewarding, and there was a lot of time that I knew I had to put into it. And I also play Arena. I play mostly Arena, so that wasn't going to. And I have a day job, and I play a lot of Hades now. Like it's just. I couldn't put enough time into it that that ignoring the leaderboard, that just the rating itself, the rating that's ever being shown to me, would matter to me because it will never show my true skill level.
Yeah,
like I just don't play enough, and I play like I could play a semi decent amount. So for casual players, I don't know what this rating system is doing. And
giving them hope.
That's only until they realize what the rating system does. So I feel like it's giving them hope for like a short period of time, and then Blizzard needs some kind of long game to continue giving them hope. And that long game is not in here right now. But it may come. I don't know. I feel like they're still tweaking the MMR system.
All right. The next question. I'm going to make this the last question just because time considerations. Also, I'm going to squeeze it. Like I'm going to kind of combine it.
Okay.
This is okay. The BG tournament scene is going to pop off in 2021. Agree or disagree?
I wish, like
it's not about what you wish. Do you think it will? Which makes you have to consider quite a few factors here.
I don't think it will, just because I don't know if there's enough support from Blizzard to do it. Like a lot of the tournaments are fan made, and I think those are great, right? Those are very helpful, right? But having support from the company, like consistent tournament structure, would really like help smooth things out, right? In terms of, you can rely on this, this tournament every week or every month, So that would be interesting to see. I don't know if that's happening, and I don't think I've heard any plans about it. So I don't know. I feel like I would know if there was some. If I don't know, whatever.
I'm going to be a little bit more optimistic. I'm going to say agree, because I think I agree with you that it'd be great to get more support from Blizzard, but with the tools that they've given us already, I think it's enough. Right. I would like more tools, but it's enough.
Maybe the word "pop off" is making my my greed factor tingle, and I'm like, oh, pop off! You're saying every week there's a new tournament to watch. That's okay, what I'm thinking.
We have different
Battlegrounds League.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's basically what I'm thinking when I'm hearing pop off. Oh, okay. The Battlegrounds League coming. I would love to participate.
I think that would be great. First of all,
yeah.
But I'm feeling pretty optimistic, because this is an opportunity now, and we've seen examples, right, where people have had community battlegrounds events, whether bigger ones or smaller ones. Like I've seen tweets from streamers who have just in-house, right? Like in-house Discord BG tournaments. Like most recently, I think today I saw one that Nicolina was doing. Yeah. And other people are just hosting smaller ones as well. And then you have like obviously bigger ones that I'm not exactly sure Blizzard sponsored, but like one that you casted with Gia, right?
That was Blizzard sponsored, but Blizzard that was Blizzard Taiwan for the All Stars event. That was the one I. It's yeah, Blizzard was involved in that one. Sure.
Gotcha. Yeah, there's like bigger ones, there's smaller ones, but I think that we have enough tools such that because of the popularity of BGs, I'm really hopeful and beyond hopeful. I think we are going to see quite a few tournaments of various sizes in this upcoming year, just because I think that it is a really interesting format that can also give a lot of like kind of custom rules, right? So we've seen, I think the two main types of tournaments we've seen have been singles and doubles, right? And once you get into doubles, man, the strategies are super duper interesting, especially when you face one another. The scouting, the hero tiers are very different. And it just introduces another layer of skill, and I love that. So it really just opens it up as well in terms of not just having tournaments, but introducing almost like a new game mode on top of it.
Oh man, for some reason you made me think of a new hero that would be cool for like team.
What
play.
is it?
Discover an enemy hero. When they get a triple, you get a triple. They discover a triple, you also get the same.
Wait. So how long does this one last for?
So you get like 4 golden minions over the course of a...
It's permanent. Like you get to discover one of 3 of the enemies. Whenever they get a golden, you get the same option. Yeah. So,
oh my gosh. Okay.
I just thought it was like it's a cool team card. that's why. That's all I was thinking.
That is definitely interesting. I don't like.
It might be strong.
I don't know how strong it would be.
Yeah, exactly, right? Because it's a discover, so you don't get to like, oh, I see the best tripling hero, I'll pick it, right? You only get like 3 out of 7, and then right, they'll know you have it, right? So they can be like, I'm gonna wait. just to screw you, or I'll get it immediately, because maybe you can't take as much advantage as I can. So it has its own meta game to play out. But this is completely random. I just thought about it right now.
I like it.
And they can die early, which will limit your hero power.
Right, you're hoping for their success, but not too successful, as in they'll kill you. Just successful enough, right? Yeah. You want that Jandis to pop off, but then Boomer APM it at the end, so you get all like 12 of the Khadgar triples, but then they just can't play it in time, and then they die. You're like, thank you.
That would be so funny if they were going Khadgar, and you're just like, oh, here's a triple, here's a triple. You're like, oh, yeah, that's convenient. Yeah,
your hand just starts filling up with like all of these cats and all of these murlocs.
Yeah. Well, you get the card, right?
Oh, you get whatever they. Okay, yeah.
So it'd be interesting.
So, first of all, I like that idea. I think it's really interesting. But for the tournament, and this is kind of like a subset of that question as well. I'd like you to talk about your experience as a caster for this tournament, and mostly just because I'm going to say this. I've watched Collins cast, whether it was informally on his stream or more formally with like Gia during the that tournament. And I think what you do a really good job of doing, which some casters do not, and don't chat. I know what you're going to do is like, oh, I bet he's talking about this. No, I'm not talking about whoever you think I'm talking about. Okay. You really get into the mindset and you focus on the mindset of the players instead of just evaluating. They did this play. It was a good/bad play. And I think what you do is rightfully so. focus on what they did for like 5 seconds and then talk for 70 seconds about what is going through their head right now. And it might not even exactly be what led to them kind of like doing specifically what they just did, but it's like what's going through their head right now. What are they thinking of in terms of the long term, in terms of the short term? What are they thinking of when they did this role, when they bought this unit and everything? I think that's just like really cool. And I'm hoping that like in the future we will see you doing a lot more casting, because I really enjoyed it. I thought you had a good dynamic with Gia as well. Obviously, she's like a pro, really seasoned caster. You guys had like good chemistry together, but I liked what you brought and just like introduced all of these complex ideas to Papega Twitch chat without sounding too pretentious or anything. It was just really good.
Okay. Back in the point, I do think we have a lot of good tools for tournaments. Like if we're in the best position to create tournaments that we've ever had, we can create tournaments that do well. And in terms of casting, I generally at first just like talking and like watching other people play it and talk about it, because usually when I watch people play, I don't judge them because I understand how complicated the game can be at times, especially in stressful situations. You have the clock running down, right? So I usually don't judge them, right? But when you're casting, you kind of have to judge them in a way where, they sold their card that they needed to win the game. That was obviously a bad play, but there's a reason why they sold it, right? Every play that these players make, there's always a reason why they're doing this, right? Sometimes their reasoning is wrong, and I think if you're a listener, that's what you need to understand to get better. Not saying, okay, they did this play is bad, or this play is good, right? Knowing that is okay, right? And you can go so far with that, but understanding the reason why they sold this minion is because they're looking at their opponent's board, and their board is this composition. This composition, even though this minion that they sold works against every single other composition, in this particular case, the reason why you would never sell this minion is because this board state that the opponent has created has never happened to you, and they're thinking about that, right? But if you don't know all of those reasonings that to sell the minion, you just look at it and you say, oh, they sold their 100 Murloc. Why would they do that? That makes absolutely no sense, right? But if you look at the opponent's board state and they're running a scam composition, you'd rather just replace that with a Divine Shield unit that can slow their composition down, right? Then it makes sense to sell your 100 Murloc. But if you don't realize that they're thinking about all the options out there and why they're looking to win, you'll just criticize that mistake. So I see a lot of players when I watch other people stream and things like that, right? They'll say, oh, look, this guy did something, or this girl did something wrong. And I'm just like, no, they didn't. They did not do they are playing at a level way above than what you're considering. And it just looks weird if you don't know that, right? You're too inexperienced to understand that they're actually thinking in a much clearer sense than you're looking at the game. So I want to help players or viewers get closer to that level so that they can be a little bit more caring, because it's like, okay, it wasn't just stupid. There was a reason, that kind of thing. So that's usually why I dwell on that, because I don't see it a lot. So, hopefully there'll be more of that.
You are trying to raise the collective IQ of Twitch chat by at least double, to at least 2.
That's commendable. At least 100, right? Because you're not looking at the starting. Yeah. I mean,
I know you've seen what plays Twitch chat recommends. That is a high bar.
I don't even know I ask them these days.
Wait, Twitch chat isn't recommending the best plays? Is that what I've been doing wrong?
Yeah.
Well, you did get to the leaderboard somehow.
I think I got to the leader. I got to top 200 mostly listening to Twitch chat, with a filter, but still, I think I relied on a lot of Twitch chat. That was okay. I do think that's what you look at casting, right, for something like esports, and it's called esports because you're trying to compare it to like, I guess, regular sports, to non-e sports, and a good casting teams for regular sports. I've always found they analyze why people are running certain plays or what happened in the play that makes it break down, right? Like sometimes I'm watching a play and clearly there's some kind of a breakdown. Two people are in the same place at once. There's a turnover happening, and you're like, all right, they clearly did something wrong. But if you have a good caster there, they'll explain what the attempt was that was going through at least one, if not multiple players' heads, and then possibly what the defense did really well, or what, whether there was a miscommunication somewhere. And if they can, the best is when they can get it really concisely, like they can give 2 sentences, and I'm like, oh, I understand what's happening. But even if they can't, if they have a little lull and it gets explained, it really maximizes my enjoyment of the broadcast. And for a game that's so much strategy, Hearthstone supposedly, it's something that I think should be a larger piece of casting than they currently do.
Yeah. So it's a lot of words, basically, just to say that, Collins, if you have any interest in it, I do hope to see you casting more, because I really enjoyed it, even though it was freaking 4 a.m. and I was pretty tired. But it was fun to watch, and I think you do a good amount of analysis. And for those of you guys who think that anyone can do it, you guys know I'm friends with Victor, okay? Victor can't do it. I think Victor would just call people idiots. I think Victor would just call people idiots. And I say this in the best way. You guys know I love Victor. If Victor were here, I think he'd laugh at it as well. But yes, I think the kind of casting that Collins does really helps further people's understanding of the game. I think it makes people more interested in the game, because one thing that really stops people from putting more into the game, or even getting into it in the first place, is an idea that is propagated quite a lot in Reddit and Bob's Tavern, and it's just BGs is an RNG fest. It's like, it doesn't matter. Like, yes, people will trend upwards, trend downwards, but it's just RNG. And we all know, hopefully, if you listen to this podcast, you know that is not true. Otherwise, why are the same people on the leaderboards over and over and over again? How has Collins performed at this level? He must be the luckiest person in the world, obviously. But
we've heard from Collins firsthand. He gets hit by 39 damage quite frequently.
Yes,
I do.
Luckiest person in the world. But I do hope that if you want to do something like this, you get more opportunities. And I think the BG community would be better off to listen to game analysis by someone like you. All right? Have a Merp's heart. There you go. Okay. So those are all of my official kind of questions that I had. And now, an hour and a half later,
the real stream. All right.
Yeah.
That was like the filler.
Exactly. That was the appetizer. Okay. That was like the 10-pound steak appetizer. All right. So, Collins, about this arena thing, tell us everything you know.
Arena is a game mode that exists where you pretend to be Battlegrounds. You get a bunch of options and you try to pick the cards that look closest to Battlegrounds minions. And then you fight other people who don't understand the game and they don't pick Battlegrounds minions, and then you go 0-3. So that's really my understanding of it.
Now, would you believe we have made like 200 plus podcasts about what you had just said?
Yes, I see them.
Would you believe that you have been on 3 or 4 of those podcasts?
Talking about said game mode. Do you remember us like talking about Squashling? That was like the hot topic back in the day.
Oh. That card was great, and you were saying it sucked, and I was saying it was pretty. It was extreme value if you live to turn 10, and you're like, I never get to turn 10, and I was like, that's your issue. You need to start staying alive longer, and you're like, they keep killing me, and I'm like, stop letting them kill you. Like that's like one of the best ways to stay alive.
I do remember this was your response. You're just like, just stay alive, forehead.
I did say that, yes, and you didn't listen.
I guess I did not. So look, we're obviously not talking about Arena right now, okay? But for BGs, is there anything that we haven't touched upon that you want to discuss, or perhaps after we've done this long discussion, there's something you want to touch upon again?
I mean, okay, you're baiting me.
Well, no, that was not a bait. Okay, if there were baits in the middle, this is definitely not one of them. Okay,
fair enough. My brain has been used up already, so there's nothing like flowing to my mind. I know if I like wake up tomorrow, I'll be like, oh, I could have talked about this. It's so obvious. It's in my face. But right now, I'm like, I don't know. BGs has been interesting. There's a lot of mechanics. The heroes, I like the power of the heroes. I want the weaker ones to be strong because it feels really bad when you get 4 bad heroes. It's one of the worst feelings. The RNG in the game could be toned down. Death battles could be toned down. The tavern tiers, I like the suggestion from Adrota to raise the tavern tiers more to its mathematical, because right now the meta is to level to 5, level to 6, and then start playing the game. Definitely do not like when people die before turn 10, before turn 8. Like 9 gold, I think that's like the most common like feels bad death when it's right before a prize and you don't even get to level to 4, right? And you've basically died. It just feels like I didn't really get to do anything, and that's more of a damage calculation problem than anything else. Game's fun. Is the game too long? No. The timers balanced. No, especially there's one turn where in the early game where there's so much extra time. Wait, I think it's the time you get the prize, maybe turn 4 or something. You have like 90 seconds for some reason, where the next turn you have like 60 or something. It doesn't make sense at all. So definitely want to adjust those times to make it more streamlined. People always ask for having like a pause button or like a like skip the time button, but it just won't be used. Like there'll always be people that are using all their time essentially. So that's kind of hard to implement. I was thinking maybe implement it once you get to a top 4 situation, but even then I don't think people will use it because it's just there's always going to be players that need all the time that they have, right? Maybe they're playing on mobile or something. So I just don't care too much about that, especially as a streamer. But generally, game's fun. I personally focus more on fixing the problems that are already there than adding new stuff. I know like it's more profitable or more beneficial to just add new content and whatnot, but I definitely like dealing with the issues that already arise, and there are definitely a decent number of them. Hopefully they are doing more. I feel like they could do more, so hopefully they are. So that's really it. I don't really have anything on the top of my head to talk about in BGs, but I can respond very well.
You can respond very well, and you have responded very well today. So thank you for that. But I don't think we need to keep you for too much longer. Adulta, did you have anything you want to touch upon?
No, nothing specifically. I mean, I did get hit for the arena equivalent of 39 damage a couple nights ago. That was very feel bad. We could talk about that on the coop. Yeah, shout out to our Patreons. Thank you guys so much for supporting us. Patreon.com/grinandgoat. You guys make this possible. Yeah, I think I'm good too.
All right, Collins, I shouldn't need to ask this because everyone listening and watching should know this. Mm-hmm. But if they do want to figure out where to find you, where do they find you?
On Earth, right?
That is technically true. Yes. Mm-hmm. If they want to find you on Twitch, where would they find you?
On Earth.
Twitch.tv/Earth.
Yes, yes. Twitch.tv/Earth. Alternatively, you can find him at Educated Collins. That's EduCated_COLLINS. All right, I even spelled it out for you guys. No excuses. That's where you can watch him. All right, and also Balloony. All right, you can watch Collins and Balloony, or Balloony and Collins, whatever order you want to put it in. But Collins, thank you so much for coming on. We've kept you for a long time, but I wanted your input, and it's always fun, man. It's always fun.
I very much enjoy it.
Talking about this, getting you riled up. Oh, token damage. Anyways, that's it. Thank you guys so much. Adwicta, do your thing.
Until next week, this is Adwicta.
This is Merp. See ya.
Take care.